You know, when we think of the invisible man, we usually think of this classic sci-fi trope. But what we're going to dive in today is something much, much darker. This is really a psychological thriller. It's the story of a brilliant scientist's terrifying descent into absolute madness, all playing out in a tiny, unsuspecting English village called Iping.
So let's just start with this question, because it's at the absolute heart of everything. If you could do anything with zero consequences, if no one could see you, no one could hold you accountable, would you still be the same person? Would you still be, well, you? Just keep that thought in the back of your mind as we get started. Okay, so picture this. It's a freezing cold February day. The wind is just biting, snow is coming down hard, and into the warmth of the Coach and Horses Inn, this figure stumbles in. He is completely, utterly out of place. This isn't just a traveler looking for a room. He's a walking, breathing mystery from the second he walks through the door.
I mean, try to put yourself in the shoes of the innkeeper, Mrs. Hall. This guy appears, and he looks more like a mummy than a man. He's just bundled in layers of clothing, snow packed onto his shoulders, and his face, you can't see it at all. The only thing visible is the tip of his nose. He doesn't ask for a room so much as he demands it. It's this strange mix of pure desperation and very, very deliberate secrecy.
And right away you can tell he's hostile to just normal human interaction. Mrs. Hall, just trying to be nice, offers to take his hat and coat to dry them by the fire. And his response is so sharp, so aggressive, he makes it crystal clear, I am not to be looked at. The mystery just gets deeper and deeper. So when he finally takes his hat off, Mrs. Hall gets her first real look at him, and wow, it's a shock. Because this isn't just some traveler hiding from the cold. His entire head is wrapped up in white bandages. His eyes are completely blocked by these huge, dark goggles, and his mouth is muffled behind a napkin. He looks like a man who is trying to literally erase his own face. So as the days drag on, the tension in that little inn just builds and builds. The stranger locks himself in his room, and his temper is like a powder keg. He's living in this state of what the book calls unendurable provocation, like the very existence of other people is an insult to him. This isn't a man seeking peace and quiet. This is the frantic, angry seclusion of someone wrestling with a terrible, terrible secret.
And this next detail, this really gives you a sense of the scale of his obsession. When his luggage finally shows up, there are no clothes, no personal items. It's just crate after crate after crate of little glass bottles, 1,001 of them to be exact. He turns his room into this chaotic pop-up laboratory. Whatever he's doing, it has completely consumed him. Behind that locked door, his sanity is just fraying. Mrs. Hall can hear him through the walls, just raving to himself. He's not just working in there, he's raging. Raging against his own experiment, against his own failure. These aren't the words of a scientist on the verge of a breakthrough. They're the cries of a man who has trapped himself in his own personal hell.
So what's his story? What's the excuse for all this bizarre behavior? Well, he tells Mrs. Hall he's an experimental investigator. He claims the bandages are because of some accident, and that his research is so important it requires total, absolute solitude. And, it's plausible, I guess. But for the gossipy villagers, it's just fuel for the fire. The suspicion just keeps growing.
Okay, and this is where things go from just plain weird to downright impossible. The local doctor, a guy named Cuss, gets a little too curious for his own good. He goes to interview the stranger, and he gets the shock of his life. He tells the story later. He saw the man's sleeve, and there was nothing in it. No hand, no arm, just an empty tube of fabric. And then it happens. As the stranger's empty sleeve is sort of dangling there, Dr. Cuss feels this distinct physical pinch on his nose. Something he absolutely cannot see has just touched him. This is it. This is the first terrifying proof that the man's secret isn't just a disguise, it's a violation of the laws of nature itself.
All right, we've reached the breaking point. The fuse has been lit, and it's about to hit the dynamite. It's Whit Monday, a local festival day in Iping, and the stranger's private madness is about to spill out and become a public nightmare.
And just look at how fast this all goes down. Before the sun is even up, the vicarage gets robbed by, nobody. The only clue is a sneeze from thin air. An hour later, the Halls discover the stranger's room is totally empty, his entire disguise just left in a heap on the floor. And then, just minutes after that, the furniture in his room literally comes to life and attacks them. The rules of reality are officially broken in Iping.
So, how do you even begin to process that? How do you explain the unexplainable? For poor Mrs. Hall, there's only one possible answer: witchcraft. She is absolutely convinced the stranger has summoned spirits, that he's enchanted her furniture, and it just perfectly captures the terror and confusion of these villagers trying to make sense of the impossible.
So all this chaos from the morning, it all comes to a head back in the pub. The stranger has returned, and Mrs. Hall, who is terrified but also completely fed up, finally confronts him. She demands answers. And this simple argument over an unpaid bill is about to trigger the most horrifying reveal you can possibly imagine.
You can just feel the tension ratcheting up. On one side, you have Mrs. Hall's very practical, down-to-earth demands. Where's my money? What did you do to my furniture? Why was your room empty? But his answers, they're not answers, they're threats. And with each question, he gets more and more desperate, more and more menacing. His promise to show her sounds less like an explanation and more like a threat of violence.
And then he does it. He shows them. And the horror just builds, step by step. First, he takes off his nose and just hands it to her. Then the goggles come off, revealing nothing but empty, dark holes in the bandaged head. Finally, he rips away the last of the bandages, the whiskers, and the entire crowd is faced with the impossible. A man standing there with no head.
Can you even imagine seeing that? It's a complete paradox. Your eyes see a body, clothes, arms waving around, but where the head should be, there's just a void. Empty air. It's a sight so fundamentally wrong, it would just short-circuit your brain. The terror in that room isn't just about what he might do. It's the sheer, sanity-shattering horror of seeing something that simply cannot be. And just like that, the fragile peace of this little village is completely shattered. The shock instantly turns into raw, screaming panic. The strange guest is gone. In his place is an active, violent, and apparently unstoppable threat. The invisible man is loose.
And then, for the first time, they hear his confession. Amid all the chaos, a voice speaks from thin air, explaining the impossible. He tells them he's all there, he's a whole man, he just happens to be invisible. But that doesn't calm anyone down. It only confirms their worst fears.
The local constable, a man named Jaffers, bravely tries to arrest him. But how? How do you arrest a man you can't hold, a man you can't even see? The whole thing descends into this brutal, terrifying brawl. And as the invisible man starts throwing off his clothes, he becomes an even better weapon. Every piece he sheds makes him harder to fight, until he's nothing but pure, unseen violence.
So what's the damage? Well, it's total chaos. The law is left beaten and unconscious on the floor, the entire village scatters in terror, their festival day is completely destroyed, and now a hunt begins, but it's a hunt for a ghost. Griffin has escaped, and in shedding his clothes, he has shed the very last piece of his old identity. He is now truly free, and truly a monster.
And that brings us right back to that question we started with. Griffin's scientific quest to become invisible ended up being a tragic quest to erase himself. And by removing his own face from the world, did he also get rid of the part of himself that connects to other people? The part that understands empathy, the part that makes him human? That is the terrifying question that this whole story leaves us with.